Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, the Beauty Myth. Learn the beauty secrets of the goddess next door in this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, the Beauty Myth at online booksellers everywhere today. I was watching videos by Mad Black 80 and Professor Black Truth, which talked about the tragic story of cosplayer Squidkid 1111, or Ashley or Ash, who sadly wound up taking her life at 19 years old due to harassment that she received online from racists. Now, this young woman, Squidkid 1111, or Ashley or Ash as she was known online, loved Japanese anime, and she loved to go out here and cosplay as the characters in many of these anime cartoons that she would go out here and watch. Now, this young woman basically was presenting her interpretation of these characters on her social media, and as she presented her interpretation of these characters on her social media, she was mercilessly harassed by many of these white and non-black racists online who basically wanted to scrutinize her presentation of these characters that she basically enjoyed going out cosplaying, and looking to say that her interpretation of these characters was not authentic because she was black, and possibly was looking to again harass her online because she was a black woman who was going out here looking to go out here and enjoy cosplaying characters from programs that she enjoyed. Now, as I watched Mad Black 80 and Professor Black Truth's videos, I was deeply saddened to hear about the passing of this young woman who basically was just looking to go out here and enjoy presenting her take on these characters. And sadly, this woman wound up losing her life because she wasn't aware of the racism that goes on behind the scenes of this fandom of pop culture. Now, as someone who's been a part of this whole hobby of comic books, science fiction, and fantasy, I know that there are a contingent of white racists who basically want to go out here and use their control over the whole hobby in order to try to create a fiefdom where they believe they can go out here and maintain power over the whole fight over the whole pop culture that a lot of nerds and other fans enjoy, and they want to go out here and again be able to say that the only way that anything authentic is because it's white, and they want to be the ones who are the gatekeepers who look to validate anything inside of that space. And as a result of these individuals, what they want to do is basically take control over the space and take control over the narrative of the space. And that's something that's been going on ever since I was about 4 years old, when this fandom basically was starting to get its start in the late 1970s with the popularity of films like Star Wars and the popularity of films like Superman, the movie. Many of these white males and even these non-black males, basically they wanted to go out here and maintain control over the pop culture because they didn't have much control in their lives because they were nerds. And because they were nerds and basically ostracized from society, these guys basically get off on maintaining their power over pop culture by looking to again be the ones who say that they are the ones who are going to control the space. Moreover, as they're looking to control the space, they're looking to go out here and look to dictate what they believe will be valid and want everybody to come to them as some sort of overlord. These people basically are a bunch of racists who are upset when they see anything that basically disrupts their smooth world, because in their world, in order for anything to be considered to be good, it has to be, again, rubber stamped by them, and it also has to go out here and elevate the image of white people. That's basically what they believe is considered to be true fandom, but their idea of so called true fandom is nothing more than white supremacy, and these people basically what they want to do is again control the space by going out here and promoting anti black racism, promoting anti black racism as the norm. That's what has been happening for many years inside of the space of fandom, is that you get a lot of these nerds who again go out here and say that they are fans of a certain character, but they're only fans of those characters because these characters are basically having the confidence that they want and are representing the ideals of whiteness that they want. They're not really into these characters because they like the story at all. No, they're only into the character because that character is out here doing the things that they want to do and has the confidence and courage to go out here, and they basically identify with this character, and because they identify with this character and the story, they only want other white people to be able to enjoy it, but they won't say that to other people inside of the space of fandom because that would reveal the racist they truly are. And many of these people basically operated under the radar for many years. I remember, again, being a part of fandom in the late 1980s when my brother and I would go out to Comic Cons, and we would be the only two black people in the room. And again, that's what made a lot of these white nerds very comfortable in their space because they know they didn't have to deal with black people. And because they knew that they didn't have to deal with black people, they basically, again, had their little fandom as their fiefdom. And as they had their fandom as their fiefdom, basically under the table, a lot of these people were basically participating in anti-black racism behind the scenes. And as they participated in their anti-black racism, they would go out here to places like message boards and again openly talk bad about black people and do it undercover, these keyboard warriors, which are basically cowards. But what's been happening over the last, I say, 15 to 20 years is that many of these racists have become extremely uncomfortable with all the changes going on inside of pop culture. And as they've been dealing with these changes, a lot of these guys just really can't cope with all the changes going on in pop culture as related to more and more black people coming into the whole space of comics, science fiction, and fantasy. Now, over the last 10 to 15 years, I've basically seen the entire demographics change of Comic Cons and science fiction and fantasy, and what's been happening from the days my brother and I went to the New York Comic Con in about 2008 when they first had the big New York Comic Con is I noticed that we were going from the days of the late 80s where white guys basically again controlled the space, and it was basically 90% white guys, to a space where we were seeing more women and even more black people. Because I remember the last New York Comic Con I went to, and I think about 2014 or so, I mean, I saw so many black people at this Comic Con, and it was a major shock to me to see so many black people at a Comic Con. I mean, I saw black people there, saw black families there, saw black children there, and this is the thing that upsets many of these white males and even these white females, because many of these nerds basically, they wanted this space to be a place where they could feel secure about participating in their anti-black racism and believe that they had some semblance of control over the pop culture regarding these characters who are basically the intellectual properties of these corporations. These individuals basically believe that these characters are their own
personal property, and they believe they're the ones who control the narrative. That's what got many of these folks basically upset as part of movements like Comicsgate. They were basically trying to say, oh, they're trying to change the characters. And yeah, some of these people basically were trying to change the characters to meet the what they believed to be changing demographics. But what was happening behind the scenes was many of these people were actually showing us the racists they actually were. Many of them were showing us the racists they actually were behind the scenes, and how they ironically were not following many of the messages of many of these pop culture stories that they said that they were fans of. I mean, many of these people said that they were fans of Star Wars. Many of them said that they were fans of these other different lores. But when it came down to the way they behaved, they basically were not following the standards of that lore. And as they were out here, they were again showing how racist they were. I mean, I remember back from the time when Force Awakens came out, I mean, many of these guys who said that they were Star Wars fans basically were getting so upset because they thought Finn, or the character that John Boyega was going to play, was going to be the lead character, and they were basically spazzing out over the fact that Finn could possibly again be the lead character. The black man could be the lead character, and that's what they were getting upset about. And one guy I heard on one report basically killed himself because he got upset over possibly a black man being the lead in Star Wars. And again, many of these guys, again, they just wind up losing their minds because they don't want fantasy. They want to be able to have their escapism, be their escapism, and they want to escape to a world of white people, and white people being in power and control, because they don't have any power in their lives. They don't have any power in their lives. And when these characters basically have to deal with a world of people of different colors and different races, that's where many of these races start to lose it, and many more of the supporters of these races start to lose it, because they basically came into fandom not because they love the characters, but because they want to go out here and get white acceptance and white approval. And these people basically, again, want to gain the favor of these white people. They want to, again, be a part of what they want is white approval and white acceptance, and they want white validation. And that's what has been a major problem with fandom. I mean, many people in fandom, again, they'll go out here and give a pass to anti-black racism that goes on behind the scenes. They'll give a pass to all this anti-black racism that's been going on for, I say, about 35, 40 years as a part of fandom, and go out here and remain silent about things, or in some cases, they'll start, again, even joining the racist as related to seeing a young woman like this Squidkid 1111 or Ashley or Ash, and say, hey, your presentation or interpretation of these characters is not authentic because you're black, when in actuality, anybody can go out here and again put on a costume. Anybody can put on one of these costumes. It's your right as a fan to again express yourself and again try to dress up like the characters you want. But these people, again, they don't like the idea of someone coming into their smooth world and again presenting themselves as a character, because they have an idea of what they want the character to be, and that idea is of that character being white. That's what really upsets these type of people, and again upsets them because they're seeing a world where more and more black kids are again coming into fandom because they're discovering these characters, they're discovering these stories, and they're enjoying these stories, and that upsets them because they want the world to be around them to be white. And again, these racists, again, they go out here looking to antagonize many of the black fans out here of these characters. And again, many of these young black nerds, again, they just want to escape and enjoy these characters, but there's no escaping anti black racism. That's the whole issue that many comic fans, sci fi fans, and black fantasy fans have to deal with. And sadly, what happened here in the case of Squidkid 1111 or Ashley is that she basically ran into that racism. She ran into the racism of that space, and sadly, because she didn't have a support network, because what happens with a lot of black nerds out here and black people who are a part of alternative cultures like the goth subculture is a lot of us, we don't really support each other. And because we don't support each other, what happens is that a lot of us feel alone as we're being attacked online. A lot of us will feel attacked, will feel uncomfortable again about looking to do things we enjoy. And again, sadly, that's what led to this young woman withdrawing and feeling so worthless, being made to feel so worthless that she wound up sadly again past taking her own life. And again, it's all because these individuals, again, they are so selfish. It's all about their idea of these characters, all about their idea of these stories. And that's one of the reasons why I have to agree with Professor Black Truth on one point that he makes, that, we can't really sit there and, again, be a part of their media. We can't sit there and imbibe their media. No, that's something I learned, again, when I was about 15, 16 years old, the impact of this media on people's minds. And when it comes down to a lot of black nerds, I understand the damage it can do to your mind, because you're looking to escape from a world where you're being attacked all the time for being smart, attacked all the time for being different, attacked all the time. And again, you enjoy these characters, but you can't really go out here and enjoy and express yourself. And again, you feel like, oh, I can't be black, or in the case of the movie I recently watched, you guys, you're just trying to be yourself. And again, it's very frustrating for people. But the whole thing is that, again, the reality of being black is something you can't escape. You can't escape the reality of being black. And again, a lot of people come into, again, this hobby thinking that they just, some of them, again, they come here with a covert contract thinking, oh, I can, again, get white acceptance. But we're not. But the whole thing is, as someone who's been in this hobby for 35 years plus, I can tell you, you're not going to get white acceptance. No, put that out of your mind. Put it completely out of your mind, because, again, that's a covert contract that will never be fulfilled. Many of these individuals out here are never going to accept you, again, as related to you being a fan of these characters, or even a fan of everything related to comics, science fiction, and fantasy. No, they believe that fantasy needs to be white, and they want their fantasy to reflect their ideas of reality. And you have to understand that these are sick racist people. They may like the certain characters that you like, but they don't like them for the same reasons that you like. And again, this is something that really causes a major conflict among a lot of these black nerds in fandom, is that they can't really cope with it. And because they can't cope with it, what they do is, in some cases, this is where we get this whole culture of bootlicks that basically, again, enable many of these racists. Some of these guys will even go along with these racists on message boards and forums, and going out here supporting the anti-black racism, or even worse, they make excuses for the anti-black racism that is openly out here in fandom. They'll sit there and make excuses for the racism that goes on behind the scenes, and even on many of their favorite programs. They'll sit there, like I was watching many of these Greg Berlanti shows, and I would call out the racism that goes on as related to shows like Supergirl, where they had, again, the Mehcad Brooks Jimmy Olsen, basically, they just treated him like garbage on that show. And even worse, they just gave John Diggle, again, an N-word moment on the Arrow program. I mean, many of these nerds will sit there and make excuses instead of standing up. Or in the case of shows like Static Shock, they won't talk about how that show never got its DVDs until way later on. Again, they won't call out the racism, and they help enable a culture of racism that goes on behind the scenes as related to much of this fandom. I mean, fandom has been filled with anti-black racists for many years, but what's even worse to me is that there's nobody pushing back outside of people like myself and maybe a handful of others. No, what's worse is that this culture of racists are further enabled by a whole host of bootlicks behind the scenes, a whole host of bootlicks who again go out here and support the people who participate in their cowardly campaigns of harassment as related to young kids like Ashley or Squidkid 1111. They'll go out here and again help these people out, not understanding that the same anti-black racists basically have contempt for them as well. That's what was really sad to me as I've been expanding my voice here on social media. I remember when I was doing the Sean James Black freelance writer website, again, I would call out the racism, and people would talk about it on platforms like Comic Book Resources, and people knew about me for many years, but a lot of people didn't like the idea behind the scenes of me calling out a lot of this racism, and many more as I went on Facebook groups I would hear them making excuses, and it would shock me at the beginning, hearing them make excuses for these racists and making excuses because they believed that if they went out here and made excuses for these racists, they would open a door to allow them a part of fandom. No, they're not going to allow you to be a part of fandom, which is really a covert contract once again for white acceptance. That's what many of these black nerds don't understand. Again, this is a covert contract you're thinking is going to be fulfilled. You think that these white racists, again, are going to let you in, similar to the way that many of these bootlick slaves thought, oh, if I go along with the massa will let me, again, get an extra piece of cornbread or a butter biscuit. No, these people basically, again, these nerds basically want to control the space, and again, they want to go out here and participate in the same white supremacy that the popular people participate in. And what they want to do is, again, once again, control the space, and again, make sure that no black people come in, because they don't want black people controlling the culture or controlling the narrative, because they fear that once black people come in and control the culture and the narrative, they won't be able to have their little space where they created their fiefdom. They fear that their fiefdom would be usurped, and that's basically what's been happening over the last, I say, 5 to 10 years. I mean, over the last 5 to 10 years, what's been happening is that foundational black Americans, as we've entered into the space of pop culture and fandom, we've been creating our own space. And sadly, what's been happening is that many of us don't understand the importance of having our own space, because we don't really need their characters. We really don't need their stories. Yeah, I may like a lot of Marvel and DC comics. I may like a lot of Japanese anime like Voltron and G-Force. I may like that stuff. But the real reason why I'm a writer right now, yeah, I was inspired by a lot of this stuff, but what I wanted to do was create my own characters that were black, create my own stories that were a part of black culture, so that we could have our own pop culture. I mean, I look at the legacy of Bill Cosby and many others in creating our own culture. And again, this is a direction that we need to go in, instead of looking to be a part of a space that never welcomed us at all. never welcomed us at all and never really cared about us. I mean, that's what was shown to me as related to the efforts of campaigns like the all new, all different Marvel, where they gave us token hand me down characters like the Sam Wilson Captain America and the black Batman, who basically is in the background. Many of these people never valued you as part of fandom, and again, they'll give you token characters and tell you that's where your place is, and that's what they were looking to do to Squidkid 1111. Tell her, yeah, you can't be the main character, because that's what really upset many of these racists. She was looking to go out here and put a black face on these main characters and put her interpretation of these characters out here as a dark-skinned black woman, and she was a beautiful young woman. Again, this is what upset many of these racists. Oh, we got to look at this character and it's being played by a black person. These are supposed to be our characters, even though they come from Japan and come from a Japanese corporation. That's what makes it defy logic. I mean, here was a young woman who again wanted to play her take on those characters, and they wanted to tell her that her take was wrong. But what was really, again, sad here is that these racists, again, wound up forcing this young woman to believe that her life was worthless. And that was the most disgusting thing to me about this whole situation. It just basically was disgusting to me that they just destroyed this young woman online, and she didn't have a support system. She didn't have a support system at all. And that's the thing that disgusted me. Again, this young woman not having a support system, because she didn't have anybody there to give her any sort of guidance or understand how things work. Now, I understood how things work because, again, I have been out here ever since I was 4 years old. And as I saw the racism going on, I understood that, the only way to deal with this is to say, you know what, we don't need their media. No, what we need to do is create our own media and our own spaces. And that's something that I've been trying to do as part of New Black Media with the SJS Direct imprint. And I would love to see some people going out here and cosplaying my characters like Isis or Steam or Spinsterella or John Haynes. I would love to see that happen. I mean, let's get out here and start representing many of the black characters out here that are a part of science fiction and fantasy. And let's go out here and make our own stories. And again, start presenting our own characters and stories. Again, we should just go out here and make our own stuff and not look to go out here and be a part of a fandom that never welcomed us, never really wanted us, and doesn't really see the value of us. I mean, what was really sad to me is that black people basically showed the power of the black dollar to those folks in fandom back in 2018. Black people basically were the ones who made Black Panther the #1 movie in 2018 and made it into the biggest box office hit of that year, and basically sold out all the toys from Hasbro. I mean, black people went out here and again showed the power of the black dollar as related to science fiction and fantasy. It was black people who again showed the power of that black dollar, and many of these racist nerds, many of these racists in these corporations didn't even regard the black dollar. No, what they did was throw up a middle finger, look to sabotage the entire growing genre of black fantasy, and look to do it by pushing Oprah Winfrey's A Wrinkle in Time so that they could have a narrative to say that the black dollar basically had no value and this Black Panther was a one-off, when there's an actual growing market for black science fiction and fantasy. There is a growing market for black science fiction and fantasy, And it's been growing for a good couple of years. I would say even 2 decades. I mean, I look at the success of Milestone. I look at the success of the Static Shock show. I look at the success of Black Panther. I look at the success of many black Kickstarters of black fantasy characters. And it shows me that there's a growing base of black people who, again, want fantasy that reflects us, reflects our stories, reflects our lives. And the whole thing is that we have to walk away from these white nerds and their fiefdom and, again, empower ourselves. That's what I believe we need to do. Again, their media can't have an effect on us if we have our own media and we support our own media. But sadly, a lot of black nerds don't have that self-esteem or that self-worth to walk away from these platforms. No, sadly, they buy into these platforms and buy into what the racist is saying about them. And as they buy into what the racist is saying about them, what happens is that this affects the self-esteem of poor kids like Ash or Squidkid 1111, and they believe that, again, a white person, what they say about them, has more value than them. I mean, for a person to go out here and cosplay as these characters, again, says that she really loved these stories and loved these characters and really loved them. But sadly, she didn't learn the lesson I learned growing up. I mean, one of the things I learned growing up is that, you can't be in these spaces looking for white validation or white approval. That's not why I was a comic fan. That's not why I was a fan of anime like Voltron and G-Force. That's not why I was a fan of shows like Transformers and G.I. Joe. That's not why I was a fan of Star Wars. That's not why I came into those spaces. No, I came into those spaces because I love the stories. I love the characters. I mean, I loved shows like Buffy and Xena and Hercules. And again, I love the stories of those characters. But as I was, again, watching these programs, I also understood, I can't come in here looking for these white people to accept me, or you look to use these shows as an attachment or a gateway into being liked by other people, because the whole quest for looking to be liked will lead to these people believing that they have a right to disrespect you, and that's not something they have a right to do at all. No, you have a right to be respected as a human being, and you don't give away your intangibles like your dignity, your self-respect, or your other intangibles to be accepted by white people. No, I can be a fan of these programs and these movies and these comic books, but I don't sacrifice my blackness. I don't sacrifice my love of self. I don't sacrifice myself in order to gain acceptance from others. No, that's not something I believe in. No, I don't believe any black person should have to believe that they have to sacrifice themselves, or even worse, compromise themselves. Like one comic book company I was working with, where they had created a comic of a black character wearing an ape mask, which was just so racist to me. I just stopped working with them because I said, if you can go out here and compromise yourself to get acceptance, again, that just shows, again, how deep the racism is. Again, you're sitting there looking to get white acceptance by putting this racist image out here, because the whole idea of an ape, again, is an insult to black people. But that's one of the problems that's going on as related to things. But when I came into this space, again, I know I'm black. I'm proud to be black. And I'm not going to sacrifice my blackness, and I'm not going to look to compromise it to gain white acceptance. No, and none of you out here should do that. None of you should look to compromise yourselves to gain white acceptance, because why should I look to be accepted by people who don't regard me? Critical question I need to ask a lot of these black nerds out here. I mean, You should never look to sacrifice yourself to be accepted by people who never respected you in the first place. That's always been, the Achilles heel of many nerds. Been an Achilles heel as related to a nerd out here is that you look to gain acceptance by compromising yourself, but you'll never gain respect if you go out here and disrespect yourself. That's what many nerds don't understand. And in the case of many black nerds, again, they will think, oh, if I go along with the racist, they'll go along with me. If I get along with the racist, they'll accept me. No, not going to happen at all. I'm repeating that for a third time because I want to drill it in your head because, again, these racists, they want these characters to be white. They want to control the space. And again, we don't need to be a part of a space that doesn't want us. No, we've got all this new black media out here, all these new black media spaces, and like my SJS Direct imprint. And I would love to have people, again, cosplaying my characters and show some pride for a black character. I mean, I've got black characters that I would love to see cosplayed. I would love to see a ISIS cosplay or an Esteem cosplay or a Matilda Crowley cosplay, and I would love to see people representing those stories, again, of us, made by someone who, again, loves black people and loves to, again, show how we can tell stories in that same genre. That's what I believe in. I believe we can, again, create our own media. Yeah, you want to escape, but let's escape to our own space and talk about our stories. That's what I believe many, again, black folks need to do. But a lot of black folks, especially black nerds, they want this white acceptance. And again, that's their Achilles heel because you can't get acceptance from people who don't accept you. I mean, that's the saddest part for me as related to this story. I mean, if this young woman had basically not bought into the ideas that these people were coming at her, because they were coming at her with colorism, they were coming at her with racism. Oh, you can't be this character. Well, I say, then I don't need to be your character. Don't need to be your character at all, because you people are showing me the character that you have. And again, many of these racist fans, many of them, again, they're not here because they love the characters. They're not here because they love the stories. They're here because they basically hate the state of their lives, and they basically want to bear the fruit of that hatred by going out here and making more people miserable by being the gatekeepers over everything and choking the life out of everything. That's why none of this pop culture really is getting over anymore with the next generation. Many of these kids don't even relate to this pop culture because these racists want to, again, hold on to these characters and make sure their version is the only version. They don't want the characters to grow. They don't want the characters to change. They want everything to stay the same. And that's the saddest part about everything. I mean, the world is getting blacker, and we're seeing more black people in these spaces, but they don't want the black people, and they wonder why many of these books aren't selling, many of these people aren't going to the movies. Well, that's because you pushed out the new customer who was ready to spend some money, and that's the other way we can have an effect on these racists. Okay, you want these characters to be yours, but you don't understand many of the boomers, many of the Gen Xers are dying out, and the only people who are interested in these characters are foundational black Americans. And again, you want to push out the black customer. Okay, you just lost all your money. But the whole thing is that we shouldn't even be investing in this stuff. No, we should have our own black media. Again, if you want to have fantasy, there's lots of great fantasy creators out here like myself. Lots of great fantasy creators like myself would love to have black dollars, would love to build a fandom, would love to go out here and, again, create stories for us, and stories for us that empower us, uplift us, elevate us. That's what I want to do. I want to go out here and, again, elevate us. That's what I do in my fantasy, like the ISIS series, where I put a lot of black history and black culture in those stories, or the Esteem series, or the John Haynes series. I go out here looking to again elevate black people, and that's something that we really desperately need, because black people, again, we shouldn't feel worthless because we want to play characters, and we should have our own characters to tell our own stories. That's what we need as related to things, because we shouldn't feel like, oh, these people in this fandom, they're going to tell us who we can't do this. Well, if we're not, the whole thing is, why should I be here in the first place? And again, I was really saddened to hear about this young lady. I mean, she looked like a beautiful young sister, and I was really saddened to hear about it from Mad Black 80 and Professor Black Truth. And I wanted to go out here and share my thoughts on this story, because I mean, when I came into fandom, again, I came here because I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to give people that escape. But the one thing I've understood as a black man is that you really can't escape racism. And the whole thing is that I've accepted that. And I've accepted that when it comes down to this space of fandom, if they don't want a space for black people, then maybe we need to walk away. Maybe we need to walk away and create our own space on new black media. Now, if you want to check out some of the fantasy that I write on the SJS Direct imprint, you can find many of my books on Amazon.com. There you can find the books of the ISIS series, the books of the Esteem series, the books of the John Haynes series, and the books of the Black Goth Spinsterella trilogy. You can find all those books on Amazon.com, along with my men's issues books, which can help some of the male nerds build up their self-confidence and their game. You can find all those books also at other online booksellers like Craft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you also want to check out my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, that comic is available on Lulu.com for $15, the same price as it was on the 2022 Kickstarter. And you can also check out my first digital comic, Esteem No Good Deed, and both of these comics feature positive images of black people going out here in fantasy environments. And you can also pick up the Esteem book and Esteem Blast from the Past. You can find both of those books again out here and at online booksellers. And again, I've been a part of this hobby for over 30 years, and I believe that there's a space for everyone, but black people, we need to go out here and create our own space to empower us, so that we can go out here and be able to enjoy fandom without having to deal with the fiefdom of white racists and their whole need to try to control things. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Counsel Vacation. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a social justice, social media mob looking to counsel her in this all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Counsel Vacation in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.